Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that some stories and discussions in this episode of Radiant Resilience may touch on sensitive and potentially triggering topics. These may include themes of religious trauma, domestic abuse, emotional abandonment, in utero twin loss, medical trauma, single parenthood under extreme stress, spiritual gaslighting, and past life references and channeling for those sensitive to spiritual or metaphysical content. Our goal is to share real life experiences in a respectful and empathetic manner, offering insights into the complexities of the human spirit and the journey towards resilience. However, we understand that some content might be difficult for listeners. We encourage you to prioritize your well being and discretion when deciding to listen. Please remember this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or support. If you find yourself needing assistance, we urge you to seek help from qualified professionals or trusted support systems. Your mental and emotional health is important to us. Thank you for your courage and for joining us in a space of understanding and compassion. Welcome back, everyone, to Radiant Resilience. I have a very interesting guest today. I have Darlene Van de Grift. She is a highly respected medical, intuitive, and multidimensional mediator, timeline architect, medium artist, and author with over 35 years of experience. She dedicated her career to help people tap into their innate wisdom and spiritual guidance to explore and heal their multidimensional selves. Darlene's thirst for knowledge has shaped her educational background across different subjects, including applied kinesiology, one brain, Swedish and therapeutic massage, anatomy and physiology, matrix, energetics, touch for health, intention muscle balancing, nutritional counseling, reconnection work, herbal and homeopathic medicine, and the energy arts. Hi, Darlene. That was a mouthful. How are
It
you?
was, and you did really well with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today. All of that sounds so interesting. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about how you got into all of these amazing things. So I'm going to let you start on your background, how you were brought up, and a little bit of your story that led you into all of the amazing things you do now. Go ahead and start
I will
wherever you'd like.
start. Actually, I remembered my in utero experience. I had a twin that didn't last long, probably the first 2 months.
Oh.
And when I became more aware of that, it was like a 10-year process, because what happened was I was very enraged at God that I couldn't, because coming into my mom's body, who was very toxic, she wasn't supposed to have me. And all I could feel was the disconnection.
Mhm.
And feeling like I had to put my body back together in a way to make it whole. Even though that wasn't true, that was the perception that feels like it happened. So my mom stayed in the hospital for about 3 months after I was born. But I always had a fascination, I think, stemming from that time of how does the body work? What makes a human tick? That was always foremost. I loved biology. I wanted to know more about science, all of that. And my family of origin, my mother was a very deeply immersed in a religious, and in a religion, and my father was atheist.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so it was how to stay neutral. I look at part of my work and as a spiritual advisor in some way is neutrality is really important. And that time in my life was really, it was really about that. How do you stay even keel when you have two people that have very different viewpoints?
Yeah. Were they
And
both trying to teach you different ways too, or?
no, there didn't feel like there was any struggle with it other than their silence about it. My dad was a very angry person. He had abuse as a child, lost one eye. He has a whole
Yeah.
smear of things, but actually their background, their ancestry. My father was right off of his ancestors went back to 1500s being on the Mayflower. My
Wow.
my mother was Lenape Indian. And so It was both of those things, all of those things were
Wow.
very interesting in my background and how I grew up to believe. There was a very strong, yes, there's a God. There was no real femininity in that. It was all masculine.
Mm.
There's a God, and that somewhere along the line, world's going to come to an end and everybody's going to die except a certain amount of people. And it was very structured and very narrowed. My father was a recluse because of his injury. So there was this way of how to function in a community. And that was my family, really, because we weren't allowed to associate outside of that, no friends at school or anything like that. And I did have them, but really what was required, going to college, doing things with children, with others, going to dances, that was not really permissible.
Mm.
And but it taught me a lot. It really gave me a groundedness of spirituality, even if it didn't work for me.
Mm.
And as I got older, my mother was when I was 16, she was given 6 months to live.
Oh, wow.
And she was very interesting. She had this health crisis, but now I look back on it and I understand why she had it. She was going into comas every 3 months for 4 days. She did that
Wow.
for several years. You would rub the back of her neck, or if she got excited, she would swell up like the Incredible Hulk. Like she looked like she gained 30 to 50 pounds. Zippers would break out her. It was just amazing to watch that.
Yeah.
And that was a lymphatic issue. They
Oh.
diagnosed her with cancer and she was in the hospital for 6 months and they sent her home and said, nothing we can do with her.
Oh, wow.
We found a chiropractor that was like, I don't know what I can do, but let me see. And in adjustments, he would keep the swelling down, but he sent her on 3-year process of going through like a health crisis. It was called the Kelly Research Program, like 350 pills a day.
That is a lot.
It was, oh, she was devoted. She just wanted to live. I think she was, let me see, she might have been 48.
Well, yeah, that's really young.
And she just wanted to live. So it was 350 pills a day. I still have her program somewhere.
Is it vitamins or was it all like pharmaceuticals?
No, no pharmaceuticals. It was
Okay.
standard process. If you're familiar with that, it was all standard process. So it's glandular. It was not herb. They weren't doing herbs then. It was mostly glandular, spleen and adrenal and liver and all of that to help cleanse and move her through. And 3 coffee enemas a day.
Oh my gosh.
And the first year she did juicing, no food, only juice. The next year was yogurt, homemade yogurt, nothing from a store. And the third year was vegetarian.
And that's all she ate in those years?
She wasn't allowed to eat anything else. Nothing.
Wow, she did really well sticking to that. That's
Oh,
impressive.
I look back on it now, knowing how hard it is to stick on anything. You say no sugar. Yeah, that lasts a couple days for most people. And it's forget that. I'm going to do what I want. But she was really, and she came out of that as a healer. So
What a transformative process.
it was. I look back now because that's when I work with people, they come in with a health issue and then I track it. What emotions came from that? How did it get influenced in the body? What are the symptoms that are coming through in that way? And her background, her mother tried to kill her twice.
Wow.
So one with poison, and the other, she threw her out in a snowstorm with no shoes or coat. And so those areas, like I look at the trauma that she had gone through, and then why her body became so resourceful in many ways of how to bring that forward so that when she went through the cleansing, the healing process, it all moved, and she lasted another 45 years.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
that started, you said, when you were 16. She
Yeah.
was given 6 months to live. And so that comes with its own set of emotions, but as you're watching her go through all this other stuff, what was that like for you?
I have a way of compartmentalizing. So I was in my senior year and they let me graduate, but I was home taking care of her most of the time. I could go into school a couple hours a week. And I don't think you can do that now, but they were very lenient. And watching her go through that, and I just never, always my fear from the time I was little is that she was going to die, because I grew up with that. Like my in utero experience was she wasn't supposed to have me. She stayed in the hospital. She was going to die. And she was in and out of the hospital for years with various things that they couldn't understand. And so watching it, I think I compartmentalized it that she was going to be fine. I couldn't wrap my head around it being any other way.
Yeah.
And the people in the religion, the community in the religion were very supportive, because that was the family at the time. She had left my father by that time when I was 15. And I was just feeling my oats in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I just wanted the freedom, and whenever I could get out, I wanted to be out and socializing with the friends that were in the congregation.
Are you willing to say what religion it was?
It was Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
And they're not as strict as what people think. Oh, they don't go to doctors and stuff. No, not really. I mean, they
A
do.
cousin that is Jehovah's Witness, a distant cousin, but they were like that my whole life. And all I ever really knew is that they didn't come to birthday parties.
Yeah, I
Other
mean,
than that, I don't know a whole lot about it.
yeah, there's little celebration because everything is considered, it has a different meaning to it than what the normal is. But they believe in God and Jesus, and it's very structured. It's like we are no part of the world type thing. They're conscientious objectors. They don't vote. They don't do any of that.
Wow.
But growing up, and that was the family. That's who you depended on. That's who you went to. That's who was the support. And then my mom got better. And I think I went off the rails, according to them. It's like I ran away, is what I did.
Yeah.
When I ran away, my mom was very psychic, and she found me. I don't know how she found me, but she did, because I was pretty far away, and she didn't drive. She had somebody drive her around, and they were going up the turnpike in Pennsylvania, and she said, "Get off here. She's here."
That's so interesting.
And yep, they found me, showed me a picture around, and I was in that hotel. And so when I came back, I was ousted. That was not, you don't run away, and you don't do things like that. And
How
so
old were you?
then I was 19.
Okay. Teenagers do wacky stuff all the time. Running away seems somewhat standard at some point.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that was
It was my escape. It was hard. But I think that for your listeners, what happens is when you get pushed that hard against something, find the fire that says no. Or I didn't look at this as, oh, what is my lesson in this? And is this happening so that I could leave that? I wasn't anywhere near that belief system. Looking back on it, it was a gift. Not having any friends or anything, because you weren't allowed to talk to anybody if you were disfellowshipped.
So did they like sit you down and tell you were out, or what was that like?
There's three elders. There's always three elders. And yeah, they went through about a year of questioning me of what was my intention, and where was I with this, and how was I aligned with this or not, or the religion and all of that. And at the end, they decided that they were going to disfellowship me. So they announced that. They announced that in the congregation, and then you can attend, but you will never be talked to.
Oh gosh. At the time, what was going through your head?
It was a lot. I knew that's where it was heading.
Yeah.
But at the time, it didn't feel like was it painful? Was it sad? But I didn't want to go back. I was angry, actually. I think that's I was more angry at the position that I was in, and that I wasn't going to go back.
Yeah.
They couldn't make me go back. I was done, whatever that meant to me. And it was not a whole lot of thinking about that. It was just like, okay, what's next? What's next? My mother always taught me, I think both of them, my dad was a builder and my mom, very strong-willed. We used to call her Mighty Mouse. But they both taught me that you just do what you have to do. Like whatever that is, just Just do it. Don't question it. Don't minimize it. Don't feel about it. Just do it. And that was part of a huge transition in my life of doing that. I had gotten married, had 3 kids, and I was, let's see, I had 3 kids under 5. And my husband at the time was a truck driver, and he had been a witness as well, Jehovah's Witness as well, and he was kicked out. So we were both black sheep of the family, so to speak. But we got together, and he was a truck driver. And my youngest was 18 months old, and he woke up in the morning, and he had always traveled and did whatever he was doing. And he was going to take his parents they were moving to Tennessee. And so my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and he came downstairs and he said, I remember cooking breakfast. And I said, when are you coming home? And he said, I'm not.
That's how he told you?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
He said, if you want to move, if you want to bring the kids, if you want to sell the house, if you want to do all that, then you can meet me in Tennessee. And I had just started work. I mean, that was my first day of teaching because my mother and I had a 3-story clinic in an old barn. And that was my first day of teaching. And you just keep doing what you need to do. I packed up the kids because she bought a place like catty corner, like walking distance, an old farmhouse and an old barn. And I remember going over and walking in the door, and they were saying, what's the matter? My mother was like, what's going on? And I was like, Lee just left. And she said, yeah. And I was like, no, he just left. He left. Like, he's not coming back. And then I walked in and had to teach.
Did you have any idea that was coming?
No.
Wow.
No.
Ugh. And then you had to go pretend you were going to be fine for the rest of the day.
And it becomes easy to do that if I compartmentalize. So this is what I had to do. I had to make sure that everybody, and I think I had 15 people in the class. It wasn't like a small class. And I was teaching them touch for health or massage. I forget even what I was teaching at the time, but I got very absorbed in that, and then came out of that, and then felt. And then the next day, because it was a weekend class, I went back into it. It took a couple weeks for me to realize what happened. And then I made a commitment that I wasn't going to lose the house, and I was going to just take care of the kids. That's it. I remember sitting on the floor in holding the baby and watching the other 2 kids. And I was like, nope, we're going to do this.
So he didn't even he just left. He wasn't going to have anything to do with the kids even?
Not for a year and a half. He tried to come back. Not that we were together at all. I had already gotten a divorce, but he didn't show up really well. I'm going to take the kids, and then, oh, I got busy, I can't, or I'm working or something like that. So it really never gelled for him to come back in any specific way. And so the kids really never knew him. It was mostly about me and what was I going to do and how was I going to do it. And my mother helped me out for about a year. She gave me it was $150 a week.
Okay.
Me for a year, which actually got me through. She worked her butt off. We both did, but it got me through. And then she said, you're on your own. And I appreciated that. Yeah. So it was hard, but I felt very blessed. I had 3 amazing kids. And I don't think I really thought what they were going through. That's the other thing in the growth process. You don't think what they're going through. All you know is that you need to put food on the table and you need to bring money. And every month, at the end of the month, I would treat myself with whatever money was left. I would have enough for a cup of coffee and a donut. And that was my treat, because I felt like I made it through a whole month and the bills are paid and the mortgage paid and everybody's okay. I only had one request spiritually from my kids, which was, you can do anything in this. I gave them a lot of freedom. You can't die. You can't die on me first. That you can do this and that, you can try anything, but you can't die on me. And I didn't find out till probably 6 or 7 years ago of why that was a statement.
Okay.
For those that believe in past lives, they were my 3 kids that had died
Oh, wow.
and had no idea. And
That's so interesting.
yeah, yeah, had no idea that's who they were until I started writing the book, and that was coming up that, okay, so there's these 3 children, and it was about past lives for me. I had no idea it was them.
So interesting. But you say you weren't really thinking about them and what they were going through. You were just trying to hold it together every month. And I think a lot of single parents are probably going through that same kind of mentality. You just got to work, pay the bills, take the kids to school, take them to their activities, make sure they're fed, like all the things. That's a lot on your plate. I'm assuming you guys have talked about, you and your kids have talked about all of that since.
Yeah, I think I was in shock to find out how much they did experiment on things that I had no
Oh,
idea, had no idea about. I could a little bit, but as long as they didn't die, I was okay. And they didn't. And they're all very functional, well-rounded, happy people.
amazing. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit more of how difficult some of that single parenting was for anybody who's listening that is in that boat right now and how to get through it?
I was still young enough that I felt like I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And I'm starting a new business and I'm trying to build that. And it was really, it led me in a 10-year process of being burnout at the end because I was working 7 days a week with only 2 Sundays off a month.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
And I would get them off to school and come back at 3:30, 4 o'clock, grab dinner, go back to work till 8. A lot of times they were on their own, but we were right there. Like I worked at the clinic, and so my mom was there, they were there, even though we were working. So they had a lot of freedom. So how would single parents? I think it's looking back on it, I've had a tremendous amount of remorse in wishing that I had been different, missing their childhood in a way, because you're not really focused on them. I watch my daughter with her 2 kids, and oh my God, she's such a devoted mother, probably because I wasn't. and and I watch her with her kids, and she is amazing. So I regret that. I have remorse about not being able to do it all. Why couldn't I do it all? I look back and say, why couldn't I do it? But you have to, as a single parent, realize that you're doing everything that you possibly know how to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I wish there was more community for certain single parents,
Yeah.
because some people don't have that. I had a mother that was very available. So it was like raising my kids with her. She became the father kind of figure in the family, but some people don't have that.
Yeah.
Depend on dropping their kids off at a daycare center where God only knows what's going to happen. We have to trust those people, and it's really difficult. And trying to live their life as a single parent. Are you looking for a partner? Again,
Yeah.
that's a time-consuming, discerning, hard thing to do a lot of times, especially in this time period.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't envy anybody I know that's in the dating world. I love them all, but I don't envy them.
No.
I have not heard any of them say they enjoy it. They're all like, oh, the people out there are just not great. And once they find their person, then maybe they look differently on it. But I think when you're in the midst of it, it's just so hard right now. And yeah, I don't
And
know.
everything is sped up. I don't know if they still have it. I had clients 30-second, you have a 30-second intro,
Oh, wow.
and then you jump to the next person. There's like these dating Zoom things. I was like, no, I can't even imagine how you would talk about judgment. So going back to how to be you have to take care of yourself. I think it's the biggest thing, because if you're not available or you're not well or mentally or emotionally or healthy enough, your kids are going to pick up on that. And my big awareness is how much children really emanate their parents, their belief systems,
Yeah.
their woundedness. Working with clients that from an early age, how a child can take on the support or the protection of the mother if it's an abusive relationship. How much people carry things that aren't even theirs. They carry it ancestrally that way, or what's happening in the family, or the belief systems of either parents and teachers, all of that. It's how porous our children are.
And they pick up more than we think.
Oh, always.
They do. They're smart little cookies, even we don't give them enough credit for that.
And they're always listening. They're like cats.
Yes.
Ears are going like this. Okay. And what did you say? And
Yeah. Yeah. So moving on from that, you mentioned to me you were in a relationship after that. So you were married to your kid's dad, got
yeah,
divorced, single parented, and then you found another partner. Yes.
I did.
Mhm.
I found another partner very much on the spiritual therapeutic thing. So it was a very different world.
Okay.
And seemed to be really good. I knew his background. It was like another learning. I knew his background. I knew how he felt about his mother, which was not great. And I think I believed he was going to be a teacher of me, and he was a teacher. He was a great teacher. But I don't know if I've ever should have gotten married.
Mm. Okay, so you married him?
I did.
Okay.
The teacher thing was one, but there was this belief that, if I got married, I'd be a good girl. I was still with that mentality of the religion.
Sure. I think sometimes that stuff is so ingrained in us. It's hard to change those thought patterns and what's been programmed into you. That takes a lot of work.
Yeah, and you have to recognize it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't attach it to the fact that, oh, maybe this isn't what I need to do. It was like, here's my answer. Not to be taken care of, because I never felt that I ever wanted to be taken care of. But it would have been nice. But I don't think I would have ever wanted it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it would be like, oh yeah, I couldn't picture me not working. I can't picture me not doing anything that I'm doing now because somebody is taking care of me. It felt too confining. And so I was in that relationship, got married after 5 years of knowing him, and how he treated his mother, how he felt about his mother was basically how it got played out with me.
Oh.
And I kept trying to be the good girl. I just kept trying that, okay, if I did this and if I did that. And it just got to the point where it was so difficult to manage, right? When you're not in a relationship that you really want to be in, but not knowing how to, because you've committed that I'm staying in it. I'm staying in it for my kids. I'm staying in it because I'm not going to get another divorce. I'm staying in it for all those reasons. And he got really angry with me. It did feel like he was angry with me, but I look back on it and I go, I guess he was. I was in the middle of kickboxing, watching TV and kickboxing, and he pulled me back, and it was in the bedroom. He pulled me back, and I got my head wedged in the bed it was a water bed, between that and the board. And all I remember, his arm coming up, and I think he pulled my legs up over, and I felt something snap.
Oh my gosh.
I tried to grab him. I couldn't grab him. I couldn't do anything. He had to have pulled me over. So when he pulled me over, my face went down in the bed, and then I couldn't breathe. And I heard somebody screaming. It was me. I had
Oh.
no idea it was me.
It's like an out of body experience.
Yeah, it was like, and then I think he pulled me over, but I couldn't move. Nothing from here down. I couldn't feel my arms. I couldn't feel my legs.
Had he been abusive with you before?
He had once gotten on top of me and raised his fist.
Oh, wow.
And I remember all I would say, go ahead. I don't know where I got the nerve to do stuff like that. I look back on it and go, wow, you could have really gotten hit. But it was like, go ahead. I think I had a lot of my mother in me, but uh,
Maybe that tenacity made him think twice about it, though, in
uh,
in that moment. I don't know.
maybe, right? Or he thought he was going to get in trouble, one or the other. But in that experience of the neck injury, when they carried me downstairs, they had me on a stretcher. They had everything strapped in. But when they put me in the ambulance, I couldn't quite hear, but I could hear wings. And the ambulance filled with white wings.
Okay.
It was incredible. It was a short ride, like a half hour to the hospital, but and all I could think about is I'll never be able to hug my kids again because I couldn't feel my hand. I couldn't feel my arms. I couldn't move. But the wings were there. Like they were just, I can still picture them. They're just this incredible amount, no faces, no anything, just wings. And I hadn't been a big believer in angels at all. So to feel that in some way. And so going to the hospital, they told me, yes, you had frayed your spinal cord. So it didn't sever it, but it frayed it.
So is that a better option than
Oh, yeah,
severing it?
because I
Okay.
would probably been permanent. It took
Okay.
9 days, but I came back. I don't know if that was a miracle because the doctors, they didn't know what happened. I was 9 days in there, and by the time that the ninth day, I was walking and I could feel my hands, and there was no negative repercussions about any of that.
Yeah.
Residue afterwards for years in the spine, a little, but more chiropractic handled that. It wasn't medicine. So yeah, and that ended it
Mm.
for me. I was done.
Wow. For good reason.
Yeah,
Ugh.
there was never an apology. There was never.
Now you said that he treated you the way he treated his mom. Did you ever meet his mom? Yeah. And did you like her?
To me, she wasn't bad. He was the oldest of two boys, but he was the golden child. But behind closed doors, she would tell him how horrible he was. And that's what the marriage was about. In front of
Okay.
people he thought he was so devoted and everything. And I never said anything else because to me, it must be me. Why would he do that? And then when we were alone, it would be entirely different.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that talking about lessons that we learned that may be really difficult. After that, I used to be afraid of men. My mother
Sure.
with my father was mostly like, just make him happy because he could have fits of anger. He was a recluse. He didn't like people. He very kind-hearted in lots of ways, but he would have a temper. And so it was stay out of his way, do whatever he needs, whatever it takes to keep him calm. So there was always that indication. That's what you do with men, right? After that time period, if there's conflict, if there's anything, I just say what I want to say. And it's like that chin that goes up that goes, yeah, what are you going to do, buddy? It's that something shifted.
Wow. So you divorced that partner, and where did your life go after that?
In the process of all of this, I started channeling.
Okay.
And that happened because my mother was in a inner child workshop and she wanted to find out why she had this vision or occurring dream that she couldn't quite place. They did a bit of hypnosis on her and they recorded it. I was asked to listen to it when the kids went to bed. And I did. And it was about an abduction.
Oh.
So she was screaming and yelling and in terror, and a voice came up inside me that said, I did not do that. We did not do that. And I started channeling this part of myself, actually from another lifetime,
Okay.
where the three kids died,
Okay.
but had no idea about it that time.
Yeah.
And started channeling. And what was happening is that was a male, and he was coming in because there was an immediate group of immediate meaning that within the last like 3 months after that he was coming in, there was a group of people that were his constituents. And he needed to heal what happened. So once that was done, he was done. But he also introduced me to as far as channeling, and then I went into mediating because I did not like the channeling.
Okay.
I didn't like being out of it. Had a lot of support around it and a lot of people that understood it, but I didn't. And I felt like I was making it up. I felt like I was an imposter. I felt like, how could this be happening? My voice changes. My hands would go into a certain position. I just didn't like it. I had asked on the spiritual level, can I do something different? And they did. So as a mediator. So that was all going along this whole time. And after the divorce, I had met somebody that I'm still with.
Okay.
And that's 25 years, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. My kids all grown up
Yeah.
and at age 40, what happened at age 40, which led me to meet the guy that I'm with, right? Age 40, I woke up on my birthday and guidance said, you're moving. I was in Pennsylvania. And I'm like, no, I'm not. My mother and I had a thriving business. And I'm like, no, it's only 10 years. I'm raising the kids here. What am I going to do? And they were like, nope, you're going to move. And I argued for 3 days saying, no, I'm not. And then my mother came to me and said, I think we need to move. And I was like, I never said
I'm
anything.
like, fine,
Yeah,
fine.
that's it. Okay, so now she's on board. Who's talking to her?
Here's another sign from the universe.
That's right. So we did. We moved upstate to actually where a little bit south of where I am right now. And that was a whole other part of my life, meeting who I'm with now, who has a whole history of a background of spiritual stuff. And I think we're good.
Good. That's great. You obviously have touched, it seems like you've been very spiritual your whole life, even starting with the Jehovah's Witness stuff. And then you even said your mom is been a medium and stuff like that. Obviously, all of these things contributed to your journey to where you are now. And what all are you doing now as far as the spiritual realm goes?
The being that came in, that was who I was in a past life. My mom and I have always had an agreement. I think I know that she brought me in for specific reasons. So my bonding with her is very different than my brother and my sister. And I was always afraid, like I said before, that she was going to die. She was 86 and she was losing her eyesight and she was sleeping a lot. I knew it was coming.
Mm.
And she went in the hospital. And the day that she passed, I was there and I closed my eyes as she took her last breath. And it was my agreement with her in this lifetime is that I wouldn't surpass her. And what that meant to me is I wouldn't rock the boat in any way. It was her business. Then I had my own, but it was still like, I'm not challenging her. She brought me in. I'm not challenging her about anything. And that vision of closing my eyes and the walls that she had around me just blew away. Like that, I'm
Oh.
very visual, and it felt like I was left in a desert and I was both free and terrorized because I didn't know who I was without those walls. Who am I going to be without her? Because that was my vessel.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I can't do anything. And I would try. It felt like for a long time, like I would start this and I wanted to write something or I wanted to do this, but it went to a boundary and then that was it. Right. So I could grow, I could take classes and my practice grew and I'd never had to advertise. I was always full. My life was very full that way. But when it came to being more visible, and I think about that, she wasn't supposed to be pregnant with me and she didn't tell any doctors till she was 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And so that invisibility was really a big part of my life. So
Mm.
those boundaries, I think, were around me being visible.
Yeah.
And when she passed within a week, there was more information. I was getting more downloads. I was getting more connection to other beings and other dimensions and all of that. And it opened up,
Wow.
everything that it was 4 years of getting to know more of these beings and learning about my past lives and working with that and healing all the times that I've abandoned people or
Mm.
hurt them, or it's a lot of, it was a lot of karma and a lot of just being accountable for anything that I was so that I could be better at who I am.
That's how we learn, right? We got to
That
learn
is,
from our mistakes and you've got to recognize it and then choose to be better after that and do it
yeah.
differently.
Are you familiar with
I
Ho'oponopono?
am not. No, tell me about it.
So that was a real godsend for me. It's a Hawaiian prayer. You can find it online. So it's spelled Ho apostrophe Opono and then Pono. So it's Ho'opono.
Okay. You know
It
what? Now that you're talking about this, I think one of my previous guests talked about this, but keep going.
so it was designed to clear karma, but I've used it in so many ways with people to do journaling and whatever. And it was the I'm sorry, please forgive me, I
Mhm.
love you, and thank you. I really used that for a long time. Like 30 years ago, I was introduced to it, right? And then I lost touch with it. And when it came back again, I was like, oh my goodness. But I use it with people with in their journaling to just make a laundry list of things that you feel remorseful about, or you wish you would have said this and you didn't, or you said something to somebody that was so painful that, and you can't go back because you're too shameful, embarrassed, or whatever, is to just what you do is you hook into who that person was, whenever that was, and you do the I'm sorry coming from your heart space. It just can't be words because it doesn't clear
Yeah.
unless you really connect to it.
Yeah.
You know, the I'm sorry, the please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. So that's clearing up your history with any places that you could feel remorse or regret
Mhm.
about. But there's also another way to use it, which is if we've experienced abuse or
Mhm.
neglect or surgeries or accidents a lot in our life, our physical body tends to split, meaning that it doesn't trust us because we have our mind, then we have our body. And hopefully they interconnect and they communicate with each other. But when there's been a lot of something that's happened to the physical form, I find out that it doesn't trust the mind anymore. So the Ho'opono do it with that too,
Okay.
to go back to any wounds that your body had, accidents, anything like that, that feel like, oh, that wasn't what my body really would have wanted. That was either painful or it was a car accident. I had no choice with that.
Yeah.
Whatever those places are, because then it reconnects. And so it helps in your health. So moving forward, if you have a body that's rebelling against you because now you're too sensitive to things because that's the body, right? Or you come down with a flu all the time, or you have these symptoms all the time. A lot of that is because the body's trying to get your attention to speak about what's stuck with the body.
Yeah.
So if we listen to that, we do the Ho'opono that way. That's the other way that I do it.
I love that. That's so interesting. I did have, so one of my previous guests, Casey, she did talk about that, I think, in her second episode. And I cannot remember what she said she was using it for, but she had just recently discovered it and was talking about it. So now that's the second time I've heard of it. Now maybe I
One more
need to
time.
take some notes on that. So it looks like, did you start out doing like massage and stuff like that? Or how did
I
you start
did.
out down some of these paths?
I've always been interested in the body. I never saw any profession that I would have gone into. I was working at a department store, and my mother had just come out of her healing crisis after 3 years. She started working with a chiropractor. She got her massage license. She was going to make $15 an hour, and I was making 4.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Now, in today's time, what is it for a massage? $15 an hour is like a minute,
Oh
right?
yeah. I do that when I go to other countries. I could get a $15
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
massage in
yeah.
Thailand,
Not in
but
the States.
no, you're looking at least $1 a minute.
Yeah,
It's
at
yeah.
least $1 a minute. So I was like, let me go see, let me go do that. There was certificates in Pennsylvania, but not a schooling. So I got my certificate, and she had already a thriving practice of many people, probably because of the witnesses, right? Because she was still that. And I didn't know how they were going to feel about me working there. But what I found out, I started to tell her I don't want to do any men. I don't want to do anybody that's hairy. I don't want to do anybody that is over 120 or 30 pounds. And she listened to me and she gave me everybody but, you know,
Okay, that's
you know,
nice, I guess, when you're working for your mom.
it was like, okay, somebody that had breast cancer and had a mastectomies, and somebody that had lost a leg, and some heavy men and hairy backs. And it took about 6 weeks, but I fell in love with the body.
Okay.
Like it didn't happen in massage, but it didn't happen in that. It happened in the connection to the person, right? And what the
Yeah.
body was saying and how, and I really wanted to help them. And it led me from massage to nutrition to couples counseling to energy work to homeopathy to everything that a client would need. I'd be like, yeah, let me know about multiple personalities. Let me see about OCD. I had somebody extremely OCD, and then law of attraction, right? So you get more of them. You start
Yeah.
that avenue, but each one or each category or each illness really fascinated me about
Mm.
where did it come from?
Yeah.
What started this?
Yeah. So then you started doing a deep dive into people's childhoods and
Oh yeah,
ancestry
and
and
the
all of that.
stories. Yeah, there was this one woman that was on the table, and she had been adopted. She had several kids by that time, and she just wanted to know who her mother was. So she was looking for her and I knew her for a couple years, but she was like, I need to find out who she was. So we did this. I used to work like on the table. I don't do that anymore, but on the massage table, and I was like, let's go back to conception. Her body actually went back to conception. She got dizzy. She said, oh my God, I feel like I'm drunk. What started to come up is that her parents had sex in the back of they were drunk and they were in the back of a car. And she came out of that. She drank a lot of water, but the story started to gel. And I had no expectation that she was ever going to find her mom. But a couple months later, she did. And that is how she was conceived.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I admire everyone that has that ability. I don't know that I could pick up on that stuff with people. Although maybe if I started paying more attention, I think that has a lot to do with it,
No,
right?
yeah. Notice what you notice and don't deny your gut feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you do now? You've talked a little bit about your clients now and when you work with people. So what does that look like for somebody who would want to work with you?
So people come in with, it doesn't matter. In an hour, we go through the weaving of whatever their story is about, which could be relationship, it can be career, it can be money, it can be health oriented. Wherever they start, like I'll say, just make a list of things that are important to you. What's top of the mind? And once we start to get in that, for me, it's like the doors open and you start to go through this traveling through their body if it's physical, or where is it connected, where does it originate? It's usually a stress or something that happens emotionally and then it doesn't get handled and then it goes deeper and deeper into the body. So that's how I work when I'm doing physical. Like I'll go through their organs and give them a percentage, and the higher that percentage is, the more stress that's under, and then we start to unravel what that's about, whether that's diet or nutrition, or is it a past life that's attached to it, or any of that, right? So it's just you take that thread and you find out how to heal it along the way, and that's usually their homework, unless some of it, if it's visual, some people prefer to do it in the time that I'm talking to them. But that's basically what I do. I start with whatever their symptom is, track it, find out where it started, find out how to clear it up, what tools do they need, where do they need to go, and then bring it up to present day. Because when you do that, what I find is, first of all, it organizes the person,
Mm.
right? Especially if they're coming in with a lot of, like, they just were diagnosed with cancer and they're going to go through their chemo and they're going to, what does my body really want and what do I need to take to help compensate for the chemo? And there's a lot of that goes on. Any of those illnesses, and medicine is the body. I truly trust the innate wisdom of that person. And when do you want to take the medicine? How much do you want to take? And I work with doctors, medical doctors, therapists, because as a team, it feels really good.
Yeah. So you're
You
usually part of people's care team.
I can be part of people's care team. Sometimes they don't tell their doctor that they're because
Well,
they
I guess it
can't,
depends on the doctor and how
yeah,
open-minded they are.
yeah, and they can't explain what I do. So it's that. So I have that part of really the groundedness of what I love working with people. And then I do once a month, it's a Cosmic Travelers group, and that is it's a guided it's a guided meditation that takes us into working with multidimensional beings, both in how they work is they will individualize. So each person gets a number and they will say the number and what that person needs to work with for the next month. And then they work globally.
Okay.
So they'll invite the group energy to do things globally so that it enhances where we are right now. So I
Mm.
have that group. And then I have the books that are coming out. The first book should be out this sometime this year by Pegasus. And that's called Earthbound: The Genesis of the Great Experiment. And that talks about the history of humanity, the history of Earth, the combination of how are we multidimensional, living in those stories of being multidimensional. They're multidimensional memoirs.
Okay. That's super interesting. When did you say that one comes out?
Sometime this year, they're in their second editing
Okay.
of it. So,
So
yeah.
still unsure at the moment.
Yes, I would say probably by August or September it should be out.
Okay. Amazing. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all of your things. I will link ways to get a hold of you in the show notes too. So if anybody is looking to work with you, that was my one question. Do you do mostly in person or do you do virtual as well?
I prefer my landline.
Okay.
Even
Yeah.
more so than Zoom or anything else. If I had to, I would because I run the groups on Zoom,
Okay.
but I'm not thrilled with it.
Okay.
I feel, and it's no different for the person because people have been used to me. I traveled and just did in person, but I've been working with people for 30, 40 years, same people, they don't notice any difference.
Okay. Amazing. So yeah, so anyone can reach out to you then wherever they are to work with you. So we'll link all that in the show notes. What do you have any parting words for my listeners? For anybody that's struggling with maybe similar things that you did or just in a tough spot right now?
Think digging deep and leaning into something that feels like it's bigger than you, whether that's God or their angels or whatever your belief system is. It's not about changing that.
Mm.
It's whatever that is, lean into that, dig deep and keep doing what you need to do. It's not about victimhood. It's not about stopping. It's not about look at your resources of what's around you and start to take care of yourself in a very different way.
I love that. Thank you for that. And thank you so much for opening up about your story and being vulnerable. I know that stuff's not always easy to talk about. So thank you for that.
You were very good in asking the questions.
Oh, good. Thank you. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Darlene, for coming on. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.